That's great. Good evening. I am going to call to order our Tuesday, January 20th, 2026 City Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Fedzer?
Here.
Weber?
Here.
Salkaitis?
Here.
Oak?
Here.
Bongard?
Here.
Munn? Here. Spellman? Here. Gem?
Here.
Petrilla?
Here.
Warball?
Here.
And a reminder, as we do this, and thank you for the reminder, if we could just all remember to try to lean forward and talk into the microphone, that would be great. Okay, we're going to start. I'm going to ask Alderman Petrilla if everybody could stand and give the invocation, please.
Help us as a council to exemplify leadership that involves courage and integrity. May we be forever mindful in our positions of our responsibilities to be of service to our community. As we make decisions this evening and in the future, we ask for discernment as to what is best for those we represent. Amen.
Amen. And Alderman Besner, our Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All
right, well, good evening, everybody. There we go. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending our City Council meeting. We're going to start out tonight with the Spirit of St. Charles Awards. So we took the month of December off, and now we are back starting in January. So as a reminder, the Spirit of St. Charles Awards is an award that we give each month. It has gone through the entire council by ward, and it's now my turn, and then it will go back to the first ward next month. But it's to celebrate those people who are making a difference in the city of St. Charles. There are so many people that I would say are unsung heroes that make our community one that we can be so proud of. And each month we get an opportunity to recognize those individuals that are making the difference. And so I will tell you, and I know I speak on behalf of everybody, but I said they would tell me, well, this is really hard. And I'd say, how hard can it be? Well, guess what? It's really hard to try to find one person. But we're going to start out by recognizing a business owner. And I'm going to ask if David Marbury from Marbury Cleaners and Launders can come up to accept the Spirit of St. Charles Award with his family. All right, so David Marbury is the owner of Marbury Cleaners and Launders and leads a third-generation family-owned business that has been caring for our community's garments since the 1960s. Built on family values, trust, and attention to detail, Marbury's combines decades of experience with modern, eco-friendly technology to deliver outstanding services. With convenient locations in St. Charles, Geneva, and Lombard, Marbury Dry Cleaning continues to serve customers with the same care and commitment that has defined them for generations. Personally, when I was just getting started as an attorney, my mom sent me to one place, and that was Marbury's. I haven't stopped. I asked him if his record keeping could show how many garments I've dropped off. He said he couldn't. But what I will tell you is the other great thing about Marbury's is, number one, again, a family-owned and has been here for a long, long time, and that's so important. Second is St. Charles Saints grad, 1996, which we always love to hear. But as a customer, what I will tell you is every time I walk into that store, no matter how many years I've gone, I'm greeted with a smile. The customer service is unbelievable. And I'm just always so proud. I walk in there and I have great conversations, and I just am so appreciative that we have a business like that that's here. So on behalf of the City Council and myself, I'd like to present you with the Spirit of St. Charles Award and give you an opportunity to make any comments if you'd like to. Congratulations.
I will say a couple of quick things. First of all, I've always said how proud I am to be from St. Charles, and so thank you for all the work that everyone's doing here. Testament to the city and everything that's happening here. Secondly, I'd like to, Clint was talking about our customer service, and I would like to point out Erica, who's here with us as well, who leads that whole team. Yeah, we really appreciate this, and there's a lot of great dry cleaning customers here, so thank you for your business.
All right, next up, we get to talk about the citizen or the adult citizen that I am awarding this to tonight. And the honoree is Beth Swiderski. Beth, I'm going to ask you to come on up and let me tell you about Beth and why she was nominated. So, first of all, when we think about St. Charles, one of the things that I always think about is how blessed we are to have community groups and organizations that take care of others. And so when I was thinking about this award, my thoughts went to Lazarus House and to think about how they serve our community and what they do and how long they've been there. So I called the executive director, Christy, and I said, Christy, I would love to recognize someone from Lazarus House that you think is just an unsung hero, somebody that does all the work and doesn't look for any recognition, somebody who steps up when they're needed and doesn't have to be asked, and in fact volunteers to do it. And on top of that, just enjoys it. And she said, I know exactly who to tell you, Beth Swiderski. And I said, that easy? You don't have to talk? You don't have to do anything? And she said, that easy. And so Beth has been a dedicated and invaluable volunteer at Lazarus House in St. Charles since 2019, consistently going above and beyond to support both guests and staff. She serves in many roles, from caring for children and serving meals to assisting at the front door, always ensuring a welcoming environment. During a major pre-construction move, Beth took on the demanding task of transporting and laundering all the bedding, an essential contribution to the success of the transition. Her Spanish-speaking skills further strengthening communication and community amongst guests and staff. Through her reliability, compassion, and willingness to help wherever needed, Beth truly embodies the mission of the Lazarus House and the spirit of St. Charles community. Absolutely. Let's give it up for Beth.
Thank you so much, Mayor Hall, and to Megan and Christy, who are here tonight. And Lazarus House has my heart always. So thank you for all the ways that the community supports the people who live there, the people who work there, the volunteers, everyone that I encounter there. They have my heart, and I'm so grateful to them. I'm remarkably humbled to receive this because it's just where I go every week to have my cup filled. So I'm grateful. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I should thank, of course, my family who's here, my mom and my dad, because they set a really great example of service to me. And I think that's so important to give that example of service, so I'm grateful. And they also babysit for my kiddos sometimes while I'm there, which is huge. So Luke is in the back, and Evie's in the back, and my husband Matthew's in the back. So I'm grateful for them too, because, families are busy, and I'm really grateful that they let me share part of our time. So thank you.
Come on. All right, and next up, and I'm not sure if he knows he's getting this award, so I'm going to say that, so on Veterans Day this last year, I was invited to go to Thompson Middle School, and I was invited to speak and to talk about the veterans. And if anybody knows me, most of the time I'll never turn down an opportunity to speak, and I was very excited. And I gave my presentation, and I thought I did pretty well. And then this kid named Hugo Ramirez stepped up right after me, and he knocked it out of the park. On top of that, he was the best dressed kid that was there. And all I could think about was how incredibly lucky we were to have somebody like him who took the time. Actually, I'm going to tell you, the speech was so good, I thought it was AI generated. And so did one of the veterans that was there. And then we were in line behind him. And I said, Hugo, can you tell me a little bit about that? He said, yeah, I asked to give the speech. I talked to my principal who's here today. Matt, where are you? Right over here. His principal's here. And he said, then I talked to I talked and I put this all together. And so tonight, Hugo is going to receive the Spirit of St. Charles Award. And the other thing that I asked him to do is if he would be willing to give his speech tonight. And I believe that he agreed that he would. So Hugo, come on up and get your award. Before he gives the speech, I just want to say Hugo is a highly dedicated and accomplished student with exceptional commitment to music, academics, and service. He performs with multiple prestigious ensembles, participates in honor bands and solo performances, studies piano and violin, and has been recognized for his character and leadership. Beyond music, Hugo excels academically with straight A's in advanced coursework and is active in numerous clubs and competitions. He contributes in student leadership and public speaking and volunteers in the community. He consistently leads by example and goes above and beyond expectations. So I am going to give him the award, and we're going to take a picture, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to Hugo so that we can hear his speech. Hugo, congratulations. And you want, you good here? Yeah. Okay. Of course.
Good evening, residents of St. Charles, honored veterans, and distinguished guests. My name is Hugo Rodriguez, and I'm a 7th grader at Thompson Middle School. Thank you for inviting me and also for being here with us today as we observe Veterans Day, a day set aside to recognize the men and women who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Your service and sacrifice protect the freedom we live by every day, and we are grateful. We are also here to honor those who sacrificed their lives for our country, and I would like a moment of silence to honor them. Veterans Day matters because it reminds us that freedom is not automatic. It is defended by people who choose to step forward, people who trained, deployed, and stood watch so the rest of us could learn, work, speak, and gather in safety. Every day, we honor veterans from every branch: Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force, and from every era. Whether your service was in war or in peace, at home or overseas, you answered when our country called. I want to recognize the veterans who are here with us right now. Your support means a lot. Two veterans I want to give a special shout out to are my sister, Ashley Olea, who served in the United States Marine Corps, and my brother, Giovanni Olea, who also served in the Marine Corps. Our veterans show us what respect, responsibility, and kindness looks like through their service, perseverance, and belief in something greater than themselves. Their strength teaches us that respect means honoring others, responsibility means doing your part even when it's difficult, and kindness means standing beside others through challenges and changes. These are the same values we practice in our schools here at District 303. As residents of St. Charles, we can honor veterans in simple, real ways. We can listen when they share their stories. We can learn from our history and understand why service matters. And we can look out for one another because unity is a strength our veterans know well. To the veterans with us this evening, thank you. Thank you for your courage, your commitment, and your example. We see you, we appreciate you, and we are learning from you. We honor our veterans today and every day by the way we learn, the way we treat each other, and the way we serve our community. Thank you.
Family, come on up. Let's get a great picture, all right? So here's a lot of information. I want you to take a look. Come on over here. So for our Spirit of St. Charles winners, we would always welcome you to stay for the entire meeting, but also feel free to leave anytime you want. Okay. we're gonna have one more honor, and then it'll probably be a good time to transition out and get ice cream. All right.
Good evening. I asked the City Administrator's office if I could go before Hugo because I knew that was going to be a very tough act to follow. But I got shoved in after him. But it's actually perfect timing because what I was looking at doing tonight is talking about a recognition that the fire department received, and it couldn't be more appropriate right now after Hugo's speech. So good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'd like to just take a few moments to recognize an honor that was recently awarded to the St. Charles Fire Department. The Patriotic Employer Recognition from the Office of the Secretary of Defense through the employer support of the National Guard and Reserve. This one means a lot to me specifically because it's not just an award, it's definitely a reflection of our city. Within our department, we have a number of veterans as well as 2 members who are still serving our community through and our nation. One of the members, Andrew Perry, serves in the National Guard as a Green Beret, which means his commitment goes beyond the characteristic schedule of 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. It includes far more frequent trainings, schools, and deployments. In fact, he's been on deployment for a number of months in the Middle East, something that's been very common for him throughout his career in the fire department. We also have a Coast Guard reservist, Chris Overland, who has been deployed for a number of months, having to leave his family to support that mission. Their level of commitment and service demands flexibility, understanding, and genuine support from the fire department and this city. Not long ago, the fire department worked through a complex issue related to military leave for drills, training, and deployment. It required thoughtful dialogue, partnership, and ultimately guidance from both the Human Resources Office and the City Administrator's Office. I'm proud to say that this outcome made it clear that when we say we support our citizen soldiers, we truly mean it. So what makes this recognition even more meaningful is that Andrew is the one who reached out to make sure that we received it. He did so because he genuinely believes the city cares about him, cares about his family, and the others who serve both here and overseas. That says a great deal about our city. So today I want to affirm the City Council, Jen McMahon in Human Resources, and Heather McGuire in the City Administrator's Office for not just saying the right things, but for walking the walk when it comes to supporting our employees who serve both St. Charles and the United States. So this recognition belongs to the entire organization, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
All right, so now I think for our Spirit of St. Charles award winners, if you'd like to sneak out before we begin, you can do that. Thank you, Beth. Thank you. Hugo's going to be mayor someday.
Yeah.
Or probably,
Got homework.
or probably senator. And that's his whole family.
I love it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thanks, David.
Pick up my shirt.
He was talking about how cold it is.
That's
Really
why he
hit
hates
so
it.
hard. Okay, fantastic.
Real.
All right, next up, I'm going to be looking for a motion to approve the omnibus vote.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve the omnibus vote as presented tonight.
Okay, motion by Sokaitis, second by Munns. Roll call, please.
Spencer?
Excuse me.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Poe?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Munn? Yes. Spellman? Yes. Gem?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wordball?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, next up, there is no old business. We will now move on to new business under 2A, public hearing for a proposed establishment of a dormant special service area, also known as an SSA number 72 for Brook-Toria Estates subdivision. Russ is available if there are any questions. The public hearing concerns the city's proposed establishment of a dormant special service area, SSA number 72 for Brook-Toria Estates subdivision. At this time, I would ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All right, motion by Warble, second by Munns. Roll call, please.
Pesner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Poe?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Munn?
Yes.
Spellman? Yes. Gem?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wordball?
Yes.
Okay, the notice of this hearing was published in the Daily Herald on Wednesday, December 31st of 2025, and a map of the proposed SSA Area 72 was made available for public inspection on that date. I therefore hereby convene the public hearing to consider the proposed establishment of the Dormant Service Special Area SSA number 72 for Brook-Toria Estates subdivision. Are there any alderpersons that would like to make a comment on the record? Okay, hearing no comments. Have there been any written comments filed with the clerk?
None.
There have been none. At this time, anybody in the public that would wish to comment should step forward and please state their name for the record. The record should reflect that no one has stepped forward. May I have a motion and a second to close public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Warble, second by Petrilla. Roll call, please.
Pesner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Poe?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Munn?
Yes.
Spellman? Yes. Gem?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wordball?
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Moving to the next agenda item, which is 2B, a public hearing for the proposed establishment of a dormant service special area, SSA number 73 for Charlestown Lake subdivision. Again, Mr. Colby will be here to answer any questions. This public hearing concerns the city's proposed establishment of a dormant special service area, SSA number 73, for Charlestown Lake subdivision. At this time, I would ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
There is a motion by Warble, second by Munns. Roll call, please.
Pesner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Poe?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Munn?
Yes.
Spellman? Yes. Gem?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wordball?
Yes.
Okay. The notice of this hearing was published in the Daily Herald on Wednesday, December 31st of 2025, and a map of the proposed SSA area number 73 was made available for public inspection as of that date. I therefore hereby convene the public hearing to consider the proposed establishment of the Dormant Service Special Area, SSA number 73, for Charlestown Lake subdivision. Is there any council member that would wish to make a comment on the record? All right, the record should reflect there are no comments. Any written correspondence filed with our clerk?
None.
No, none have been received. At this time, anyone wishing to step forward in the audience that would like to comment, please step forward and state your name. Record should reflect that no one has stepped forward. May I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Munn, second by Gem. Roll call, please.
Besner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
Munn?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Petrola?
Yes.
Wirbel?
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. We're now moving on to agenda item number 3, committee reports. Anything from government operations?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything from government services?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything from planning and development?
Yes, I have item C3. I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title 17 of the St. Charles Municipal Code entitled Zoning, Chapter 17.06, Design Review Standards and Guidelines, Chapter 17.32, Historic Preservation, and Chapter 17.30, Definitions, Painting, Staining, Masonry Surfaces in the Historic Districts and Landmarks.
So there has been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Wirbel, second by Gem. Mr. Colby is here to answer any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Besner?
Yes.
Weber?
No.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
Munn?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Petrola?
Yes.
Wirbel?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, with permission of everybody on council, we're going to change the last couple agenda items around. We have the state's attorney, Ms. Masser, who is here, and what we would like to do is move the presentation of the proclamation up from 12 to number 10. We would then have any public comment following that presentation, and then we would close with any additional items from council, mayor, or staff. Does anybody have any objection to that proposed change?
No.
No.
Okay, so we are now then going to go ahead to the item including the presentation and a proclamation that'll be read today. We are joined by the state's attorney of Kane County, Jamie Masser. Jamie, thank you very much for being here today. And we are going to ask the chief and Jamie to speak on, just a little background. We have had a number of conversations about immigration issues and the enforcement of immigration issues. There have been a number of questions that have been brought forth to the council and that the council has brought up in their own discussions. In doing so, we thought that the best way to address some of these questions would be twofold. One, again, to have Chief Likens step up to address the current policy and procedures of the St. Charles Police Department, and then that's going to be followed by our Kane County State's Attorney, Ms. Masser. So, again, I want to thank you both for being here, and Chief, I think we're going to go ahead and start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I appreciate the time to address you. I will try to talk slower tonight. As I'm reminded, I talk fast sometimes. But again, I want to talk about what it means for the St. Charles Police Department specifically. The Only Trust Act, we've talked about it a lot. It's a state law, provides clear guidance on how local law enforcement will interact with federal agencies on immigration enforcement matters. The purpose is to ensure that the local police departments remain focused on their core responsibilities, protecting public safety, enforcing state and local law, and building trust with the community that we serve. And the key word there, I think, is trust. The Trust Act is just that. Our officers do not stop, we do not question, we do not detain or arrest individuals solely to determine their immigration status. We do not engage in civil immigration enforcement, and we do not detain individuals for immigration purposes unless required by a valid judicial warrant or court order as mandated under Illinois law. These requirements are not discretionary. They are codified by the law, and our department follows them fully and professionally at all times. It is important for our residents to understand what the Trust Act does and does not do. The Act does not prevent our officers from enforcing the law. We continue to respond for calls for service. We continue to serve our community. We continue to investigate crimes. We make arrests when probable cause exists, and we hold all individuals accountable based on their actions and behavior. Our enforcement decisions are guided by behavior and public safety concerns, not a person's immigration status at any time. The Act does not prohibit cooperation with federal law enforcement in serious criminal matters when such cooperation is required by law and supported by proper judicial authority. At the same time, the Trust Act makes clear that local law enforcement does not have the authority to carry out civil immigration enforcement. That responsibility lies outside the scope of local policing. At its core, the Trust Act supports public safety. Effective policing depends on trust between the police and our community. When individuals fear that contacting local police could lead to immigration consequences, crimes go unreported, victims do not seek help, witnesses are less willing to come forward and cooperate, and that makes our community less safe for everybody. By clearly separating local policing from civil immigration enforcement, the Trust Act ensures that the victims of crime, witnesses, parents, workers, young people, that everyone can call 911. They can report crimes. They can cooperate with their local police in these investigations. This improves our communication, it strengthens our outcomes, and overall, it enhances public safety in our community. Our department, the St. Charles Police Department, remains committed to transparency, to accountability, that we will follow the state law. We will continue dialogue with City Council, with the Mayor's office, with our residents, with all of our stakeholders, so that we can serve effectively and responsibly. The trust between the police and the community is not automatic. It must be earned. It is built through fairness, through consistency, respect, and the Illinois Trust Act will guide that. It reinforces the principles that local police exist to protect and serve everyone who lives, works, or visits our community at all times. We pledge to continue to meet, have dialogue with our residents, attend functions, support our community that we serve, and we will continue to reach out to the children, the civic groups, anybody who is willing to converse. I want residents to hear this clearly. If you need help, if you're a victim of a crime, if you witness a crime, if you have information of a crime, please call us. We want to keep people safe. That is our goal. We want you to contact us. Our role is to protect public safety and uphold the law, not create fear or division in our community. I appreciate the time to address the council. I appreciate the citizens that are behind me that we've been able to meet with in small groups, in one-on-ones, in emails, in telephone calls. And most importantly, I just want to emphasize, call 911. That's what we're there for. If there's a problem, call us. I hate hearing we don't want to be bothered because that's what we do. We're the police. We want you to call. We want to engage. We want to hear what's going on in our community. And if you don't bring it to us, we don't know. So I thank the opportunity to address the council, the mayor, our residents, in parting words, we are here to serve, we are here to establish trust, and we will continue to work hard to do that.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, so Chief, thank you. Did anybody have any questions for the Chief? Okay. So next up, as I have said, we have Jamie Mosser, who is the Kane County State's Attorney. I have known Jamie for a number of years, and I just feel very, very lucky, and I think we as a community should feel lucky that we have a State's Attorney who is willing to come out. I know you've been in a number of different municipalities, and so we appreciate the time that you're giving us to come share your legal knowledge with us as a city council. So I'm going to turn it over to you at this time.
Thank you. I appreciate that, especially because you are the person who gave me my first opportunity to be an ASA here as the first assistant. And then, of course, there's my other boss, Joe McMahon. So very intimidating, everybody. I would also like to note that this is not my speech. It's just the body of research I'm presenting on tonight. So the reason why I've offered to come out to all the different municipalities, understanding that I am not the lawyer for St. Charles, I'm the lawyer for the Kane County Sheriff's Office, and that's who I provide advice to. I think it's important that the right information, the correct information get out there for everyone because there is a significant amount of misinformation. And so I'm going to talk to you the same way that I've talked to every other municipality and the legal advice that I've given to the sheriff in regards to this. There is a difference between federal law and state law. Federal law and state law gets to operate independently, and state law cannot tell federal agents what to do, and federal agents cannot tell state agents what to do. That's the supremacy clause of the Constitution. And that is something that we have built our whole country on, is to make sure that our states have the independence from the federal government, and the federal government has the independence from the states. Now, the Trust Act was created back under Bruce Rauner, Governor Rauner, because the idea was to make sure that we understood the different role between the federal agents and the state agents. Immigration laws, whether they are criminal or civil, are federal. It has nothing to do with the state. And that's why the Trust Act was created, to make sure that in local law enforcement, it was clearly understood what we could do versus what federal agents can do. And as the chief said, There are certain things within that where local law enforcement is prohibited from, and there are certain things that they're allowed to help if presented with a federal criminal warrant. And that's very clear. And so the idea behind all of this is we want to make sure that everybody's following the law, and that includes law enforcement. Now, what I have been discussing with people is what is specifically in the Trust Act, because there's an exception that a lot of people rely on, trying to say that our local law enforcement can actually go another step than what the Trust Act allows. In one of the subsections, it says that nothing in this section shall preclude law enforcement from investigating violations of criminal law and cooperating in such investigations with federal and other law enforcement agencies, including criminal investigations conducted by federal Homeland Security investigations in order to ensure public safety. Now, the intent of that was to continue the partnership that we've always had with the federal government in terms of doing bigger investigations. I can tell you in King County, we have a child exploitation unit and a human exploitation unit, and we rely on our partnership with the federal government to be able to go after people who are peddling in child pornography and people who are doing labor and sex trafficking. What that line was put in was to make sure that we continue those investigations because those are criminal in nature and we can partner with them. What we cannot do is assist federal immigration enforcement in what they're doing civilly. Now, there are some small subsections that law enforcement can do if presented with a criminal federal warrant, and that's a difference. And so for anybody who maybe can't sleep tonight, if you would like a 2 to 3 hour presentation on what the federal law, immigration law says, I'm happy to help out with all of that. So the reason why I'm coming is because I think there's a lot of miscommunication about what we can and cannot do. A lot of that is to show that local law enforcement is actually prevented from being able to assist. There was a House bill that was recently passed and is now law that says that federal immigration enforcement cannot happen. Arrest cannot be made within 1,000 feet of certain places like courthouses, hospitals, daycare centers. Now, the way that they wrote that law has a civil remedy enforcement, not a criminal enforcement. So if somebody shows up at the courthouse who's a federal agent and they're doing civil immigration enforcement, there is absolutely nothing that we can do about it because of the way the statute was written. The statute says the person who's being affected, the person who's being placed under arrest within 1,000 feet of the courthouse, has the right to now sue civilly in state court. It does not allow local law enforcement to intervene. It does not allow them to stop it from happening, and it certainly does not allow an arrest mechanism of a federal agent. And I think that's important to know because when this was publicized and it was put out, it seemed like it was a remedy that was going to help individuals in this situation, and it's supposed to, but civilly, not criminally, and not the use with the police department. And so I'm happy that Chief Likens said people should call the police if they feel like they're in danger, and that should happen. But if you want that House bill, that law to be enforced, that cannot be enforced by the police departments. That cannot be enforced by the sheriff's office. And that's the message we're trying to put out within King County is those are civil remedies, not remedies that a police department should respond to. On top of that, throughout all of King County, and I've been monitoring this, different villages and cities have put out different proclamations, ordinances, and resolutions. And I've been monitoring this to see what has happened. In King County, we put out a resolution. The resolution says that federal agents cannot commandeer our property for the use of federal immigration enforcement staging, deploying. And we can do that because of the supremacy clause. They can't take our property, much like we can't take their property. Now, that's lawful what we put out. However, the mechanism for that is reporting it to the King County Board, and that has to go to the state's commission who's monitoring all of this. So it's frustrating, and I understand this, but it's because of the Constitution. It's because of the separation of the federal government and the state government that we're limited in what we can do in response to all of this. And that's part of the reason why I've agreed to go to any municipality that has asked me to go there to make sure that this law is very clear. Now, I'm going to end on a lot of the research that we've been doing because in addition to having to advise my county on what we can and cannot do, I've also been requested to look at a significant amount of video and body camera about whether federal immigration enforcement, the actual agents, have exceeded the authority of what they're allowed to do. And so I constantly am reviewing this. I'm providing decisions about whether or not it happens. But part of the research that I found out is that it is actually very difficult to be able to sustain any type of a prosecution against a federal agent. And this has been created in the 1800s in a case called In Re Nagel that said that I can only charge as a state official a federal agent if I can prove, one, they were not in their scope of lawful duty, and two, both objectively and subjectively, that person didn't have a reason to do what they're doing. The case law that has happened since then even says that even if in hindsight it was a really bad decision, if you look at the totality of circumstances, it's not going to be something that subjects them to criminal prosecution. Now, let's assume I'm able to meet both of those and I charge that individual in state court. The federal government, the statutes that deal with this say that they shall take my criminal prosecution and deal with it federally. Now, do I agree with this as your state's attorney? Absolutely not, because I believe that anybody who violates a crime here in the state of Illinois should be held accountable to it. But I also can't exceed the authority of what I'm able to do, and neither can any of you, and law enforcement certainly cannot do it as well. I live in this community of St. Charles, so I'm very happy to be here to speak in front of you. I live in King County. I love what I do, but I'm going to make sure that we do the best that we possibly can within the confines of the law. Now, does that mean laws can't change? Absolutely not. At the request of the Elgin Police Chief, I am now amending the Trust Act with the idea of giving more authority to local law enforcement to be able to protect the individuals in this situation. We are going to propose that to the legislature, and I hope somebody picks it up and is willing to go forward with it. I think that is a very viable solution to help everyone in this situation, and that's what we're going to try to do to be as proactive as possible. So with that being said, I am all done with that prepared statement and am ready and willing for questions. No one ever cross-examines a prosecutor, so I'm ready for it.
Okay. So thank you very much, Councilmember Spellman.
First of all, thank you so much for coming here and giving us a layman's explanation. Oh, sorry. Yep. Can you hear me? That's better. Thank you for being here and for your helpful background. My question is, I'm curious of all the body cam footage you looked at and all the examples you've been asked to provide an opinion on. Did any of them meet the criteria?
I have one case, and I don't want to say where yet, that we are looking at where I believe under Illinois law, the ICE agent did exceed what we have as authorized use of force. I think the problem is the more we get through this case law, I don't know that it will be eligible to charge. But again, I am of a believer, having had to prosecute people from all walks of life in this community, including police officers, that we need to hold people accountable. But I don't know we're going to be there in this particular case so far.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? I would also note, just in that regard, that the Chicago Tribune had a wonderful article 2 Sundays ago. It was about 2.5 pages and went and outlined exactly what our state's attorney has just talked about, including explaining the removal, and that even if the state does charge, that the federal government has in the past and would probably in this case just take the case to federal court, taking the case out of the hands of the local jurisdiction and then leaving it to the federal government. So, and again, you know, so appreciate your willingness to come in and share your expertise, and that's just another way to continue to get more information. So, any other questions for our state's attorney? And again, thank you. I know you're a St. Charles resident, so thanks for being here tonight.
Yep. Well, I'm glad to support you all.
Thank you. All right, next up, before I read the proclamation that the city has agreed upon, I want to also take a little bit of time, and I'm going to continue to try to move forward to make sure I'm talking into the mic, but if I back up, let me know. Beginning with the November 17th council meeting, we have heard from many speakers during public comment regarding immigration activities throughout the United States, the state of Illinois, and our neighboring communities, and in the city of St. Charles. In addition to these public comments, I, along with our council and staff, have received phone calls, letters, emails, texts, and have had several one-on-one conversations and conversations with groups. During those public comments, the emails, the letters, the texts, the conversations, we have heard many differences of opinions. We have people who believe that the city needs to pass an ordinance prohibiting our federal government from using any of our properties. Others believe that the St. Charles Police need to be more proactive in working side by side in assisting our federal government with immigration enforcement. And still others have commented that we need to focus our attention on the local issues facing St. Charles, which include redevelopment of the Charlestown Mall, the tax levy, budget, and leave this issue to the federal government. The fact that our residents have different points of view on this issue is not surprising. In fact, it's a good thing. Since becoming mayor 7 months ago, we've had residents that have come in and spoken on issues, IMEA and our energy policies, the Judge Berry home, the redevelopment of the old police station site, and many other issues. And on all those topics that are in front of us then and on topics that will be in front of us in the future, there are people on both sides of the issue. So this issue is no different. Now, as I have mentioned here before, the city of St. Charles is blessed to have 10 council members who take their jobs very, very seriously. And over the past 2 months, the 10 council members, always in compliance, City Attorney Joe McMahon with the Open Meetings Act, have spent hundreds of hours discussing and debating what the city's position should be on this issue. And just like in our community, there are a number of different opinions up on the dais as to what we should do as a council and what I should do as the mayor. So next step, after the January 5th meeting, there were public comments and there were conversations among council members that said, you know what, this issue is so important to the community. They have continued to come to our meetings. They have continued to email, call, and request conversations that we need to respond. We need to say something. And after discussion, the council agreed. And so we are going to have a resolution tonight that will be signed by myself and all 10 council members. Now, to be clear, the proclamation is signed, and usually proclamations are just the mayoral proclamation, but on this one, it was important to all of us that it not only be the mayor, but it be all 10 council members, which I think is very significant and very important. Our goal in that proclamation was to find words that all of us could agree upon. It was important to all of us that we spoke with one voice, and I am thankful that we were able to work together and that the council was able to work together to find words that we could all agree upon. Now, I will tell you right out of the gate that I know that there are some council members that would say that the proclamation does not go far enough. And I also know that there are other council members that would say that the proclamation goes too far. But again, it was important to all of us to find those words that we could all agree upon. And the council did that. And that wasn't easy. And as the mayor, I am very thankful for what the 10 of you have done to be able to speak with one voice. Now, the next comments that I'm going to talk about are my own as the mayor. I had a conversation where somebody said, you know what, you're not a judge anymore, you're the mayor. And as the mayor, you have a voice. And I appreciated that because as a mayor of 7 months, I'm learning my job every day. But so those comments that I'm going to make now are my own, but I have incorporated the comments and conversations that I've had with the members of the council. First of all, one of the common retorts that we have heard over the last 2 months has been, do something, pass an ordinance. And the council has heard over and over and over again, pass an ordinance that prohibits ICE and other federal agencies from using city-owned property during their enforcement operations. We have consulted with our chief legal law person, Ms. Masser, our Kane County State's Attorney. We have consulted and asked for opinion by our city attorneys, including Joe McMahon, the State's Attorney of Kane County for 10 years, and the State's Attorney before Ms. Masser. We have also looked at our neighboring communities who have passed ordinances to see if the ordinance has prevented ICE from operating in their community. And as we heard tonight from Ms. Mosser, and as we have heard from Mr. McMahon, based upon the supremacy clause, an ordinance prohibiting ICE from city-owned property is unenforceable. It would set expectations that our St. Charles Police Department could not meet. It would give our residents a false sense of security, and the ordinances passed by our neighboring communities has had no impact on curtailing immigration enforcement. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. We have been told, go ahead and do it anyway. To pass an ordinance is symbolic. So what if it's unenforceable? It sends a message. I understand why that message is being sent. But I, as a lawyer, a former judge, and a mayor, strongly oppose passing an ordinance that is contrary to the opinion of our elected state's attorney, contrary to the opinion of our lawyer, and from an enforcement perspective is not enforceable, places enforcement expectations on our police that cannot be met, and gives our residents a false sense of security. It is bad policy. And I believe the majority of the council believes, for the reasons stated by our state's attorney, that we are not interested in passing an ordinance. Not because it's not important, but because the law is unenforceable. Does that end the discussion? Of course not. In the letters and the texts and the public comments, a common retort is, do you care about what is occurring in your country? Do you care about what is occurring in your state? And most importantly, do you care what is occurring in the city of St. Charles? Can't you see what's happening throughout our country, throughout our state, in our neighboring communities, and most importantly, right here in St. Charles? How can you be okay with that? We have heard that, and we have received those messages. We also understand from our conversations, and I will just take note that we have continued to offer to have conversations. And I am so thankful of the people that have reached out and have had those conversations. I have not had one conversation in which I left saying, boy, you know what, that didn't go well. Because every conversation that we've had has given us an opportunity to listen and to learn. And that's a great thing. And so there have been times that I've had meetings set up that I looked at my schedule and went, well, I'm not sure how this is going to go. And at the end of that meeting, think, boy, oh boy, am I happy that that person had the courage to come. And this is what we understand in different conversations. We understand that we have St. Charles residents that are living in fear of immigration agents. We understand that we have St. Charles families who won't go shopping for food in fear of being detained by immigration agents and have to rely on friends and family and community members to buy them food or to bring them food, or else they'll go hungry. We understand and have heard that St. Charles students are scared to go to school because they are afraid at times that when they return from school, their mom and dad will have been taken and detained while they are there. We have been told and understand that we have St. Charles businesses whose sales are down because their customers are afraid to shop there. And we understand and have been told that we have St. Charles businesses who are experiencing work shortages because their employers are afraid, their employees are afraid to come to work. So those conversations have been shared with us. And we understand that. We're not here to say that's not true. We're not here to question whether that's true. That is feedback that we have received. Still, do you care? Why haven't we heard from you, Mr. Mayor? Why haven't we heard from you, City Council? Your silence is deafening. Well, I'm going to answer the question about do we care really easily. Of course we care. We all care. And it's heartbreaking to watch and read what is occurring. It's heartbreaking to listen and hear about St. Charles families that are living in fear. Aside from being your mayor, I'm also your neighbor. I'm your former student. I'm a friend, and I'm a fellow community member. I'm a son, a brother, a husband, a father, and I'm a human being with feelings and emotions. I ran to be your mayor because I love St. Charles. I ran to be your mayor because of how much pride I have in the city of St. Charles and its citizens. And I ran for mayor because I hope to take that passion and to use it to help guide our city for the 4 years that I was elected. And when I look up and down this dais, when I just talk about me, I know the same is true of all 10 of us. We have in front of us, we have sons, we have daughters, we have brothers, we have sisters, we have moms and dads, and most importantly, everybody up at this dais is a human being who cares about their fellow man and woman. Now, I'm going to share with you that I don't sleep well on Monday nights or Tuesday nights in this occasion. I toss and I turn, and I think and I reflect about all the thoughts and opinions that were shared, and hearing how St. Charles residents are suffering and being impacted. It comes with the job. It isn't fun. Each comment that's made about the city of St. Charles, a criticism, a comment that you don't care, is like a dart, and I feel each one. I question myself at times. I question my actions or my inactions, and I wonder if I'm up to the task of being mayor. My families and friends give me a wide berth for 24 hours after our meetings before asking me about anything that happened because of the emotion that these meetings bring. I get it. It comes with the job. But I want to make sure that I shared that with you, and I don't think that every council member receives the comments differently, but I think it's important to recognize that we live here, that we hear you, that we do care, that we do feel, and that when the comments come up and we hear those, believe me, if you think that every 10 of us just go home and go to sleep and that this isn't going on all the time, you're wrong. And I think you know that. But I share this because being passionate about our community and knowing that our residents are suffering, it hurts. And when someone is hurting in St. Charles, we all hurt. Now, I do want to answer the question that's been asked after a lot of meetings, and that is, why have we not heard from you, Mr. Mayor? Why have we not heard from the council? We come up in public comment, we share our thoughts and opinions, and yet you just look at us blankly and you never respond. I've been told, guess what, Mr. Mayor? We look at you. We look at your face. We look at all your faces. We want to know how you react. We want to know if you're yawning because we're not making an impact. We want to know if you've heard us. Well, I want to explain why you don't hear from us after public comment, and that's because at city council meetings, public comment by design, we don't have the ability to respond. It's set up so that it's not a question and answer. It's not a debate. You talk, we listen, and as much as we would like to respond, we can't. Not because we don't want to and not because we don't care, but because that's the way it's set up. Every comment that is made, every speaker that comes up, we appreciate that. That's what public comment is for. And so a speaker during the last city council meeting, and I have read through, not only have I listened, and all of us at different times have watched the YouTube videos, AI generates the transcripts. I've read the transcripts over and over and over again of public comment from the last 4 meetings. And one speaker said, as he was listening to retired Colonel Jake Wyatt speak, he said, I was trying to figure out what side he was on. Well, there is no side to this issue. We're all human beings, and it's hard to see that suffering. So I don't think that there's a side. I think that when someone is hurting in St. Charles, we're all hurting. Now, during public comments, we've had veterans and other speakers step up to the podium to remind us of the importance of our Constitution and following the laws of our country. And as I have shared before, I have been a lawyer for over 30 years, 15 plus years as a prosecutor and 15 plus years as a judge. And most of that time, I spent it in a criminal courtroom, either prosecuting people for committing crimes or presiding over a courtroom full of people that have been charged with crimes. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, due process has been a topic and principles that have been at the forefront of my entire professional life. And I want to share with you what I have learned throughout those 30 plus years in a courtroom and how it impacts me as your mayor. Over the course of my career, I have prosecuted or presided over cases when people were charged with committing horrific crimes. Murders, predatory criminal sexual assaults, aggravated drunk driving where people were killed or injured, elder abuse, child abuse, the list goes on and on. At the start of my career, when I was prosecuting those cases, I struggled with the idea that those people that were charged with committing those horrific offenses should have the rights that they had and be treated as well as they were being treated because of the crime that they had allegedly committed. I think it's something that probably all young lawyers go through and young prosecutors go through, but how could this person be in front of me, charged with murder, charged with sexual assault, charged with elder abuse, and how could we treat them so, how come they had so many rights? Regardless of the crime that they had allegedly committed, due process required and made sure that there was probable cause to arrest them with or without a warrant for the crime that they were arrested for. Those same individuals were read their Miranda rights, and they were required to be brought in front of a judge within 48 hours for a Gerstein hearing so that a judge could do an independent review to ensure that the facts supported the arrest. That once the decision was made that there was probable cause, that the court then explained all the rights that that person had and to provide them with an attorney if they could not afford one. Regardless of the crimes that they were charged with, after they appeared in front of a judge, they were provided, after they appeared in front of a judge for those crimes that I've talked about, they were explained all the rights that they had, and those rights included being given an opportunity to be in contact with family to let them know where they were at, to inform them of what had occurred and what was going to occur forward. And as the case went through the criminal justice system, they were explained that they had the right to call witnesses, to testify on their own behalf, to cross-examine witnesses that were called to testify against them, and to have the state prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And as my career continued, I no longer struggled with the idea that the people charged with committing those horrific crimes should have the rights that they had and be treated as well as they were being treated, because that was what our Constitution required. Those were the rights that the Bill of Rights ensured, and that's what we as a country decided was important to us. And the Supreme Court upheld the idea. And that's what the law requires. Those due process rights are there. And so we don't get to choose what laws we want to follow. We don't get to decide and insert our personal opinions. I like that one, I don't like that one. That's what the Constitution requires. And at the end, and I can say this as a prosecutor and as a former judge, at the end of the case, we were better and we are better for making sure that those rights are followed. People were treated no matter what crime they were charged with respect and dignity. Because we decided as a country almost 250 years ago that that was something that was important to us. And I use the word people and not criminals for a reason. Because what I learned during that time as a prosecutor and as a judge, that regardless of the crime the people were charged with, and in most cases were either found guilty or pled guilty to, that they too were sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, moms and dads, aunts and uncles, and most importantly, human beings. So why do I share that with you? Because I hope that what it explains is why I feel the way I do about where we're at. As it pertains to the immigration issue or any crime, and I've heard Ms. Mosser just talk about it today, I believe in accountability. And if someone breaks the law, whether it's local or state or federal, I believe that that person should be held accountable for their actions. If a person has entered our country illegally, in most cases, that person has broken a criminal law and I believe should be held accountable. Under the United States Code 8 U.S.C. 1325, entitled Improper Entry by an Alien, if a person comes into our country unlawfully, it is a federal offense. It is what's considered a Class B misdemeanor. and it's punishable by up to 180 days in jail. 8 United States Code 1326, entitled Reentry After Deportation, is also a federal criminal offense. It's a Class E felony, punishable by a prison sentence of more than 1 and less than 5. The flip side to accountability is that I also believe that our government, of which I was a part of for almost 30 years, also needs to be held accountable and to make sure that they follow the Constitution and the laws of our state. Due process is guaranteed to all persons charged with a criminal offense, regardless of their citizenship status, as guaranteed by the Due Process Clause in the Supreme Court. Now, as Ms. Mosser said, there are times when it's civil and there are other times when it's criminal, but those rights apply regardless of citizenship if you are charged with a federal criminal offense. Those due process rights that I explained to you, that I learned early, apply to those people who have broken the federal immigration criminal statutes. Due process for criminal immigration offenses is no different than the due process rights that are afforded to people that I just explained, which includes being brought before a judge so that a judge can do an independent review to ensure facts exist for the arrest, and once a person is detained, to make sure that that person understands their rights and provided with an attorney if he or she could not afford one. Now again, a difference between criminal and civil, but that's criminal. Due process for criminal immigration, it requires that they also have the right to call witnesses, testify on their own behalf, cross-examine witnesses against them, and for the state and the federal government to meet that burden. That is what our Constitution and our laws require. Now, my hope, I guess my expectation would be that any law enforcement agency, whether it be another municipality like municipalities that come into St. Charles, whether it be the Illinois State Police, or whether it be our federal government, operating and enforcing the laws in St. Charles, would hold itself to the same professional standards of policing that we expect from the St. Charles Police Department, including and not limited to following the law and affording those arrested with due process. You can't pick up one end of the stick without picking up the other. There's accountability on both sides. But as I mentioned, herein lies the problem, because the federal government has the authority to use the enforcement that they want to in enforcing their immigration policy. We as the city council, or I as the mayor, do not have any influence over the federal government and how they choose to enforce their laws. We are not Congress. We did not run to be a congressional representative. We ran to serve the city of St. Charles. Our congressional representatives, Bill Foster, Lauren Underwood, Senators Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth, they have the ability to impact federal law. The 10 of us and I as mayor do not. That doesn't mean that we won't listen. It doesn't mean that we don't care. It doesn't mean that we're not concerned. But I think it's really very important for us to understand the lanes that we are in and what we can do and what we can't do. On a federal level, ICE and other federal agencies are continuing to come into the community. And again, they do what they want to do regardless of our laws, our hopes, and our expectations. And I know that if you were to ask them, they would say that they believe that they are following the law. On a state level, as you've heard, the Trust Act prohibits the St. Charles Police Department and our officers from assisting in their enforcement. So the police department, like other police departments in the state, are caught smack dab in the middle of federal and state policy and are placed in an absolutely, in my position, a no-win situation. The city of St. Charles, like other communities in the state, are caught smack dab in the middle and placed in a no-win situation. So is that it, Mayor Hall? Does it end there? No, it doesn't. Because what we have done and what we have tried to do and what we are committed to doing is listening and acting. Part of the resolution states that the city will continue to serve and represent all residents by fostering transparency, communication, and collaborative partnerships throughout the community. So what is it that the city of St. Charles has tried to do? We have produced a website, and I know right away, I'll hear, well, that's just a website, Mayor. What good is that? Well, I think it's a lot. I think if you look at our communities, a lot of communities have done just that. And that website is available in both English and Spanish. It provides information and available resources, along with links to answer questions residents have. And we're committed to continuing to enhance that website as more resources become available. We have been told by business owners and residents that they want to be heard, but they're fearful of meeting with us. We have and we will continue to meet with anyone or any group that reaches out, and I will go to them. The chief will go to them. There are council members that will go to them. So if they're scared to come to City Hall, we will do whatever we need to do to try to make sure that we can go to them so that we can listen and we can hear. Because as I've said, there has not been one conversation I've had that has not been helpful. We have produced business cards that are available in both English and Spanish that highlights the information on our website, also highlights the information on the Trust Act, and emphasizes, and this is so important to me as a former prosecutor and judge, that 911 is for everybody. And it's just not important to me, it's important to all of us. No person will be denied police, fire, or emergency medical services based on their immigration status. No victim or witness calling 911 to report a crime will be questioned about their immigration status. And this card is available in the back, and it's going to be available, it was asked, and people can take it, people can hand those out. But what it does is I hope that it continues to foster communication so that people understand what the Trust Act is and what it's not. And again, when you're victimized, just as the chief had said, we want everyone to feel that they can call 911 at any point in time without worrying about what's going to happen. We will recognize, and we have recognized and continue to support our local 501c3s, our faith groups, our community organizations that serve our community, including but not limited to food drives, coat drives, and anything else that's helping those community members that are in need. Recent examples include Big Hearts of the Fox Valley, who handed out gifts to those in need, have done backpack programs, have done clothing programs, and most recently supportive of food drives that have been held by We Can Lead Change at La Huerta, a local grocery store. We have and will continue, as I look at what action we have taken and are committed to partner with our intergovernmental partners like the library, the park district, the schools, to continue to build the relationships with St. Charles students and families. We always do that, but we hear you that we need to up our game, and the police department and our city will always and will continue to do that. What else have we tried to do on the police perspective? As Chief Likens said, the St. Charles Police Department will always stand up and let everybody know that they are committed to professional policing, to build trust, to protect all, and to provide services to all. Our department has and will continue to receive the most up-to-date training on the Illinois Trust Act and any potential amendments, to be updated on the most recent case law and legislative amendments, and to work together to make sure that we're using best practices so that we can be proactive in preparing for events. We will, as the police, continue to prioritize and to place emphasis on our school resource officers who are at our middle schools and our high schools, and the police will continue to prioritize building relationships with St. Charles students and their families by dropping by schools, attending school events. We met with somebody who suggested, you know what, go to the bus stop where they're at. Just stop by and say hi. Chief Likens said, absolutely, we can do that. Stop by the school and go to Tiger Lunches. We can do that. Go to Mass where Spanish-speaking individuals are so that they see you and they learn to trust you. We can do that. That's action that the police have taken, and we have social workers on our staff that are there to help our residents, and so those social workers have and will be available to help families who are impacted and need assistance in the event that they suffer a loss due to immigration. When I say a loss, if a parent's removed, if they need help, we have social workers that are there that can be assisted. So, in conclusion, and I appreciate the time that the council has given me to speak today. I appreciate all of you giving me this opportunity. But I want to thank all of you that have reached out to share your opinions. It's what makes St. Charles a strong community. All of us, I'm very thankful, and when I read about other public meetings, no matter how many comments have been made, and the comments we've received, for the most part, the dialogue and the conversation has remained very dignified and civil. And that's so important to me, and I think so important to the city of St. Charles. I said maybe a month ago, that I had watched 60 Minutes, and they interviewed the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. And during the interview, he shared the following observation that I have on my bulletin board down at City Hall, because I think it's so important. And he says, disagreeing better isn't just about being nice to one another. It's about finding a way to disagree that moves us towards solutions rather than deepening divides. It is relearning how to disagree the right way, how to have debate, how to stay true to your principles, your core values, without demeaning and tearing apart the other side, and in doing so, actually finding out that there is common ground where we can meet each other to solve problems. And each of the meetings that I've had have helped me do that. And I believe I can speak for council that each of those meetings have also done the same thing. So I am proud to be your mayor. I am thankful to be part of such a great community. As the mayor, I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to continue to do what we need to do. And with that, I'm going to read the following proclamation. Office of the Mayor Proclamation. Whereas the mayor and the city council of the city of St. Charles, and again, I'm going to emphasize that, the mayor and the city council of the city of St. Charles, Illinois, support the constitutional rights afforded to all persons and remains committed to the due process and the rule of law. And whereas the city believes that all residents of the community deserve to live with respect, dignity, and safety. And whereas St. Charles is a community shaped by generations of immigrants and is strengthened by residents of all backgrounds. And whereas the city is a welcoming and inclusive community where all residents feel supported, valued, and able to live in peace without fear. And whereas the city has a long-standing tradition of civility, neighborliness, and respect for all people, and seeks to preserve and strengthen those values for future generations. And whereas the St. Charles Police Department is committed to community-oriented policing, cultivating trust, and guaranteeing that all residents feel secure in the dedication and integrity of law enforcement. And whereas the city remains fully compliant with the Illinois Trust Act and all relevant state and federal laws, and whereas local law enforcement is charged and committed to protecting all residents within the bounds of its lawful authority, and urges anyone who is being victimized to immediately call 911 for assistance. And whereas the city pledges to continue engaging with residents to support community stability and confidence. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Clint Hall, Mayor of the City of St. Charles, with support of the City Council, do hereby proclaim that the city reaffirms its commitment to ensuring respect, dignity, and safety for all residents. St. Charles fully complies with the Illinois Trust Act and all applicable state and federal laws. The city does not engage in federal civil immigration enforcement and ensures that our focus remains on local public safety responsibilities. The city will continue to serve and represent all residents by fostering transparency, communication, and collaborative partnerships throughout the community. Signed by myself and the 10 members of the City Council. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm now going to turn it over. We are now moving to the public comment section. If anyone has any public comments that they wish to make, please come up and state your name and the city that you live in.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Paul McMahon. I'm a St. Charles resident. We know and understand everything that you just read, and we agree with it. We know that the St. Charles Police and the American Police hold themselves to a high standard. We also know that the ICE enforcement people do not hold themselves to the same standard. So you seem to imply that you're in a quandary right now because you know that you're going to hold citizens to accountable for their actions, but you have a quandary or a confusion about what to do if the ICE agents are breaking the law. So my question is, my rights, if I have immigrant workers or friends at my house and ICE presents themselves at the front door and they want to come in and I I'm going to tell them that I'm not going to open the door unless they have a warrant signed by a magistrate. And if they don't have that, they can't come in. But if they attempt to come in or break this door or force themselves in, I'm going to call the police. And I know the police don't want to be in the middle of a fight with ICE and themselves, but I'm assuming that St. Charles Police will protect my rights as a citizen.
So again, we can't go question and answer. It's a wonderful question. I'm going to put you right over to Chief Likens, who will be able to explain exactly what the police can do to help you in that situation. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Kathy Brenz, and I'm pleased to hear about the progress that has been made. But I would like to share with you Resolution 93-R-25 from Evanston, Illinois. And the good news is that I am reading the summary of it, so there's not a whereas to be found. As part of the current surge in deployment of federal agents into Illinois and the Chicago area, federal immigration enforcement has impermissibly used publicly owned facilities in other communities as staging areas for civil immigration operations. For instance, in Chicago, federal agents have staged enforcement operations in parking lots owned by the city and by Chicago Public Schools in violation of Chicago's Welcoming City Ordinance. In response, Chicago declared city-owned property to be ICE-free zones. Resolution 93-R-25 similarly establishes ICE-free zones in the event that federal agents attempt to use Evanston-owned property for civil immigration enforcement operations. The resolution provides clarity on how city departments and staff should implement the Welcoming City Ordinance as applied to city-owned property, including prohibiting any city-owned and controlled parking lot, vacant lot, garage, or other city-owned property from being used as a staging area, processing location, operations base, or other support for civil immigration enforcement. This includes assembling, mobilizing, or deploying vehicles, equipment, materials, or personnel. Directing staff to identify city-owned properties that could be used as enforcement operation staging areas, and to post signage, clearly identifying these properties as city-owned and stating that they may not be used for immigration enforcement purposes. Directing staff to, wherever available and appropriate, use physical barriers such as locked gates to limit access to city-owned properties so that they cannot be accessed for immigration enforcement purposes. Directing city departments to implement procedures requiring staff to immediately notify their supervisor if they become aware that federal agents are using city-owned property for immigration enforcement purposes, and requiring supervisors to notify the city manager immediately. And this final one I think is incredibly important. Directing staff to design and print signage that private property owners or renters may use to delineate non-public areas of their property in which activities related to civil immigration enforcement are restricted. The signs will be available free of charge to private entities, including businesses, medical providers, nonprofit organizations, and faith institutions. The city shall also make the signage available on the city website so that landowners and leaseholders may download and print signs. Neither the resolution nor the Welcoming City Ordinance affects the lawful use of city property for purposes unrelated to federal civil immigration enforcement. I think all of us remember the promise that ICE would go after and deport the worst of the worst. DHS has put out statistics that 70% of those arrested are serious criminals. That is true only if simply being undocumented, and some of whom have been here for decades, raising families and paying taxes, is counted. If we look at the statistics for serious crimes, the reports list between 3 and 7% of those arrested. I have to believe that the original purpose of ICE were very different from what we now have, what we all see with our own eyes. The DHS frantic goals to increase the ICE force, added to a $50,000 signing bonus, training and background checks that are inadequate at best, even dangerously negligent, describe the current hiring practices. I might suggest that any of you look at the work by the articles by Laura Jadid, who was an undercover reporter who went to apply for a position with ICE. She went to the original interview, and then following that got documentation after documentation saying that her background check was good. This was good, that was good, and the final one saying that she was hired by ICE, none of which happened. Now, DHS is saying this is a lie. Fortunately, she has all the documentation, and you can check that out. The Bishop of the Episcopal Church in New Hampshire called a convention of the priests in his locale, many of whom are involved in assisting the immigrants, in attending the protests, doing everything that they can to protect their communities. What the bishop told them was that if they did not have their affairs in order, perhaps they should do so. If their wills had not been written, perhaps they should make sure that happens, for fear of what might happen to them. So those are just two places that we can look. In short, the worst of the worst can be applied more accurately to the ICE population than to those who have been taken. Again, for myself, I thank you for the progress made in making our city safer for all of our residents. My personal plan is to continue with any appropriate, peaceful protests, and if I should hear of a raid, attempt to get to the scene, protest, and yell to ask if anyone who has been taken can give out a phone number where he or she would need somebody notified of the ICE action. I will also be hoping I don't get shot in the head. Maybe it's time, as John Lewis, one of my personal heroes, if we are fighting the federal restrictions on holding people accountable, maybe it's time for good trouble. I personally would like to also offer up prayers for the people of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and while I'm at it, the citizens of Greenland. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brent. If you could just step up and please state your name. Yeah, yep.
Hello, council members and Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. My name is Patty Gowrie. I lived in St. Charles for 40 years. I raised 3 kids here, and I'm a retired nurse of 43 years. First of all, I want to thank Jamie and Ryan for meeting with me last week. It was an over an hour conversation, very honest, very true conversation, so I appreciate you taking time to meet with me. The next day, I wanted to share an experience with you. I appreciate the proclamation. My ask is that somehow we let our immigrant neighbors know how much they are appreciated here. Last Wednesday, I was at Fox River Bluff West Forest Preserve. If you haven't been there, it's kitty corner to St. Charles North. It's a beautiful forest preserve. It's an off-leash dog park. I was there with my dog. We were in the car ready to come home. And this young woman got out of her car, and it was a very cold, blustery day. And she looked to be high school age. She was a Hispanic young woman. And she waved at me in my car. My dog is adorable. And I rolled down my window, and I said to her, "Be careful out there. It's really cold, and it's icy." And she said, I just need to go get away from hatred and negativity. And she had these tears in her eyes. And I said, I'm so sorry. I know the world is crazy right now. I said, how are you doing? And she said, at least I know I have God with me. And I said, I want you to know there's a lot of us with you. And I kind of blew her a kiss. I thought, oh God, is that weird to do that? But she blew me a kiss back. And then I drove away and I thought, I should have given her my scarf. I should have stayed and made sure she was safe before she got back in her car. But I didn't. I just cried the whole way home. And I think we need to understand whether someone is grabbing you physically, this is traumatic for so many people. And they're feeling this emotionally. And this is a young woman. And I hope somehow with this proclamation, somehow with what we're saying, we stand up for St. Charles, this can go to the high school. This can go to our young people. We can say, we appreciate you. We expect everyone to treat you with respect. You know, they're on social media. They see what's happening. And that just broke my heart. And that's why I wanted a proclamation for people in our community to know that they are respected and they're welcome here. And everybody deserves due process and respect. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Anthony Catella. I'm a resident of St. Charles. And, I hope you'll forgive me. I'm going to refrain from talking about anything controversial. But I just wanted to compliment you, Mr. Mayor. You were as the president giving a primetime address from the Oval Office. It looked that way to me. You did a good job. Well, I just want to talk about three quick things. One is the young man that addressed us at the beginning of this evening's presentation. It reminded me a little bit of myself, although I was a little older. Mayor Norris had asked me to address the City Council on July 17th, 1989, my Voice of Democracy speech, which I still have and use as a compass and guide to my thinking to this day. And I told the young man, you never know. One day this might be the will of the House of Representatives and you might be the President of the United States. I don't know if it's sunk into the young man yet. I still have delusions of grandeur for myself, but at least I can say I'm happy to be once again a candidate for this great county, for Kane County. I'm happy to be a candidate again. I love running for office, and we'll see what happens with that. I did serve my country in the United States MP Corps, and because I did, I humbly request that it be considered that I be appointed an honorary police officer for St. Charles, Illinois. I wish that I could do that, and every once in a while patrol with a senior officer under his direction and guidance to contribute my MP skills to serve my community. I think I'd be pretty good at that. So with that, thank you very much, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Bill Schwindel, St. Charles resident for 20 years, I think it is. Something struck me with what you were saying tonight. I appreciate the proclamation. I happen to be one of those people who would like to go further, but recognize that what you have done tonight is a step in the right direction. But what struck me is the word hope. Hope is a powerful, powerful concept. It's something that can carry us through the hardest of times. I think a lot of people are relying on that right now. And I think when you say you hope that the federal government follows the law, because there's nothing we can do, right? That's what I'm hearing, is that there's really nothing as a city that we can do to interfere with the federal government that's coming in. And so we're relying on hope. And I think that that's interesting because it can be such a powerful concept and it can be such a powerful way in which to be grounded and look for better things and better days. But I don't know that that's enough for things to change beyond where we are today. And I guess what I hope is that, Mr. Mayor and the council, that you have opportunities to witness what some of the people are going through who are really, really frightened. So when we know that there are going to be additional opportunities for people in this community to dial 911 because they are frightened and they don't feel like they have anywhere to turn. And I hope that our police officers, who I am so grateful don't wear masks, I'm so grateful that they believe in the law, I'm so grateful that they are doing what they can to protect each and every one of us. But I hope when that 911 call comes, because that's what you've asked them to do, that someone from the police department has the opportunity to witness, even if they can't interfere, but just to witness what it is that people are going through. And I admit, I am an old white guy. I haven't had to go through, I don't feel the fear that others do, aside from the fact that I'm worried about where this country is going. But hope isn't enough. And so I guess I ask that as we continue to face what we're going to face, that you're prepared to move forward and to respond in ways that are within our capacity to help the people in this community in whatever way we can, even if it's just a shoulder to cry on, even if it's just food at the food pantry. And I'm concerned that that's what we have to rely on is hope. Because when you have a federal government that is armed and doesn't see the law the way that we see it, that it's only going to go so far. And so I appreciate the ears and the words from this body. But I'll just say it's not over. And I don't think we can be in a place where we feel that there's not going to be something more to come that as a body you'll need to respond to. And I don't know what that is. I don't know how you're going to do it. And I recognize that today we don't have the legal authority that we want to have. But if that changes, I hope that we're able to do and willing to do what we think is in the best interests of our community, despite the hardships that are coming down. So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful for this body. And I appreciate what you're trying to do. I just feel like you're going to need to do more. And we don't even know today what that means. So keep going. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Joseph P. Morgan, Sr., 38-year resident of Chicago and a decorated Army Vietnam veteran. I took an oath, as you have, to uphold the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both domestic and foreign. To me, due process is afforded to U.S. citizens, not 20,000 criminal illegal aliens that have no rights. President Trump, the Congress, and Senate were elected to close the border and to deport criminal illegal aliens who President Obama and Biden allowed to flood this country for the past 12 years. Countries emptied their jails, prisons, hospitals, and mental institutions and sent them to the U.S. because we had an open border. None of them were vetted. We should not get in the way of the federal ICE agents. President Trump received almost 80,000 legal votes This fight is about increasing Democratic voter rolls. Anyone hiring illegals should have their businesses closed and fined. Our schools and our hospitals should not cater to criminal, illegal aliens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment?
Al Watts, speaking as the Community Engagement Director for Preservation Partners of the Fox Valley. I just wanted to talk briefly about an action you guys took this evening regarding the Judge Berry House. I just want to speak on behalf of our members and thank the mayor, city council, city staff, the Baker Church, and the buyer that has come forward for making a resolution to a very difficult problem. Historic preservation is not easy, and honestly, you guys ended up making it look easy. And I'm very proud to be a part of this community and part of what you guys were able to accomplish. This solution is going to be something that everybody worked hard for, and I think that everybody's going to end up being very happy that you all worked that hard to make this happen. The community is going to have its history continue to be preserved, which is fantastic. It's also going to get a piece of property reactivated back on the tax rolls, and is going to provide some economic benefit to the community as well. I really think that other communities should be paying attention to what St. Charles did here. Like I said earlier, this is not an easy thing to do, but it can be done if everybody tries to work hard and make it happen. So I just wanted to congratulate the city, the church, and the community for preserving the Judge Berry House. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, I'm going to go now to additional comments from mayor, council, or staff. Before I go to council, just a couple things from me. Please be aware that on February 2nd, the new committee structure takes effect. We're transitioning to committee of the whole for our standing committees. That means government operations, planning and development, and government services committees will be consolidated into a single committee of the whole. The committee of the whole will meet immediately following the 7 p.m. city council meeting on the first and third Mondays of each month. As the mayor, I'd like to thank council members Werble, Weber, and Bongard for their leadership as chairs of the committee. I really, really appreciate what you did each and every meeting, and just thank you on behalf of the mayor and the council.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next up, Restaurant Week is coming up Monday, February 2nd to Friday, February 6th. And you can receive a discount at participating restaurants. Check out the St. Charles Business Alliance website for details. St. Charles has so many delicious restaurants to choose from. Try an old favorite or try something new. The line that I'm supposed to say is, I can't wait. I would say that anyway. I can't wait. And thank you for supporting our local restaurants. We've got happy belated birthdays to Alderman Weber, January 16th, Police Chief Likens on the 16th, and Councilmember Spellman yesterday. And happy birthday to Mark, who turns something tomorrow. And then I will then turn it over to any other council comments. Okay, hearing no other council.
I'd just like to say thank you, Mayor and Arzana and Tara and Administrator Heather for the great presentation for all the commission members that we had back on January 10th. I thought it was a great event to get everybody together, that those that could join us to understand what we all do and how we do it together to make the city a much better place to live and work. So thank you to all of you for organizing that.
Okay, fantastic. Anything else? Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right, so I was looking to my right, so motion by Gem, second by Munns. Roll call, please.
Pesner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Kulkaitis?
Yes.
Smoke?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
Munn?
Yes.
Spellman?
Yes.
Petrillo?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to just take a brief 2-minute recess. And I'm sorry.
Yes.
jumped the gun, and so we'll take a couple minutes and then switch over for our next meeting. Thank you.